of the National Football League.
Something liable to happen today? Yeah!
They said Cris Carter was a troublemaker. Now he's a playmaker, and his Vikings are contenders. They said Paul Krause couldn't tackle. Now he's a Hall of Famer.
Thank you very much.
They said you have to be intimidating and tough to be a great coach. Quietly, Dr. No has proven them wrong. It's the Men of Minnesota this week on NFL Films Presents.
Hold on to your seats for this play, folks. What kind of a call is that? This is when the big dogs come out. This one's for Sean.
NFL Films Presents is brought to you by Edge Pro Gel. Lose the foam, save your skin. And by Coca-Cola. Eat football, sleep football.
I mean, when you get DirecTV.
Greatest catch I've ever seen. Greatest catch I've ever seen. Greatest catch I've ever seen. I've seen them all.
When great hitters are really focused in, they can see the seams. Is that true for you?
When I'm really in the zone as far as catching the football, I can see the point of the ball coming at me. And I think that I was born to catch the football.
Johnson retreats the throw, looks, Cox fires it downfield to Cris Carter. It is caught! Carter! Touchdown, Vikings! Greatest catch I've ever seen! Greatest catch I've ever seen! And I've seen them all!
Well, here's some more, Coach. And even these aren't Cris Carter's best.
What's the greatest catch that you ever made?
I think I made a catch against Atlanta like 7 or 8 years ago where Bobby Butler was covering me. I mean, he had perfect coverage on me. And the quarterback threw it to me anyway.
Throws it deep downfield. It is to Carter. One-hand catch. Did he make it? Did he make it? Yes! What a catch! Touchdown!
The defender was right here, and he threw the ball on this side of the defender. And I reached down maybe like a foot, 2 feet off the ground and caught it with my right hand. And my left hand was holding onto his jersey trying to keep myself up. And then I rolled into the end zone.
Chris, when you watch the Sunday night highlights and one of your touchdowns comes up, Chris Berman will always say,
Cris Carter, all he does, catch touchdown. Cris Carter, all he does, catch touchdown. Cris Carter, all he does, catch touchdown.
You know, anytime you approach the red zone, it's such an important area. And I want to separate myself from a lot of the other receivers by my touchdowns. I believe that as far as any other receivers in the league, I can score just as many touchdowns any given year than any other receiver in the league.
someday, you're going to come up for the Hall of Fame. And you look at the great receivers. All of them had certain signature catches. Elroy Hirsch, over the shoulder. Lynn Swann, the juggling catch. He'd come up, he could jump, and he could adjust to a ball in flight. Jerry Rice, 3 steps over the middle, catches a ball in stride, touchdown. What's Cris Carter's signature catch?
Probably either a one-hand catch.
Oh, man, was that a great play. Carter acrobatically pulls it in. Cris Carter with a one-hand grab.
Or something on the sideline.
I tell you what, if Cris Carter ever thinks about leaving football, he's got a job with the great Willendas.
You must have a sixth sense to know where you are in the field to be able to consistently do that.
I know how much space I have. I pretty much can figure out how many steps it's going to take, how long the ball has been in the air, what kind of move I put on the defender. It's amazing just to be able to stop right there before you're going to step out of bounds.
Touchdown, Vikings! What a catch by Carter!
How do you react in a game when you get a DB that starts to trash talk you a little?
I don't mind. It depends on who it is, too.
We had you mic'd, and there was somebody in the Bears secondary. We heard what you said, but what did he say to you that caused that response?
I think he said something like either to the effect that you're just an old man, or he called me an old man, something.
Shut up, Paul. That ball, you let's go. Old man. Old man.
Well, you better hope you can play as long as me. Hey, when you get on your knees and say your prayers tonight, pray.
Man, every day, baby.
Pray you can play as long as me.
Cris Carter knows all about prayer. He's prayed for the father who was never there, and for an end to the demons that were always there. Back in 1987, as an Eagle rookie, he seemed invincible. No one could cover him, and no one could soar as high. But no one knew he was an addict and an alcoholic. No one except his closest friends and Coach Buddy Ryan.
I was very immature, taking things for granted, lived the nightlife scene. I think Buddy was upset with me, and he decided to release me.
To most people, they think that you two have a terrible relationship. You said once that he protected you. What did you mean by that?
He protected me from letting a lot of people know what really had happened in Philadelphia. And that was the reason why he cut me was not based on my ability, but he cut me because of my substance abuse. And he didn't think he could depend on me anymore.
For a mere $100, the Vikings picked Carter off waivers. And right from the start, he refocused himself on what he had to do.
I'm gonna get this first. I'm gonna get this first.
And he's done it ever since, becoming their all-time receiving leader in catches, yards, and touchdowns.
First down!
Off the field, Carter's even better. He's rooted now in his family, faith, and community.
I want everybody to keep up the good work as far as their attendance, no violence, no drugs, no alcohol.
He's broken free from his old demons. He's Hall of Fame bound. But now his sights are set on the Super Bowl, and he is the guiding spirit of the best Viking team in 23 years.
Come on, everybody know the story today. Ain't nobody need to get pumped up. Hey, it's Soldier Field. Everybody's loving it. Hey, let's keep it going. Be physical on 3. 1, 2, 3. Be physical.
In your situation here, you, Reed, Randy Moss, you got 3 great receivers.
This team depends upon the wideouts as far as adrenaline and everything.
After every game, win or lose, somebody's not going to be happy because you didn't get enough passes.
Well, what you have to do is win. It's not about beating the Bears. It's not about beating St. Louis. It's about when we play the big dogs, are we going to have everything tight? I mean, do we really want to be in the Super Bowl, or do we just want to catch balls? And what you have to do is be unselfish. And that starts with me.
Why does it start with you?
Because I'm the leader of the team. Someone has to be the leader if you're going to have a team.
Man, the film, Randall, what did we watch on film? Outs, threes, giants, right?
This season, Minnesota took a chance on another receiver with a troubled past, Randy Moss, and Carter is his mentor and guide.
Hey, if they put him on the program, we're going to put him in the paper. Hey, big fella, hey, way not to push him off, too. Way not to push him off. Yeah. Because that guy is right back there. And way to elevate.
For years, he was lost. Then he was found. And now, he's showing the way for everyone.
It says as wise as a serpent, as innocent as a dove. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, sit back and gain some maturity in the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I will. You know, God's grace is sufficient. Yeah, it'll carry you through. All right. It's hard to play at a high level. It's hard to be a husband. It's hard to be humble and to be a father. And when I get out of the game, I will still have all those things in place long after I'm done playing. Over the course of my career, I've overcome a lot. And it took me a great deal of time before I could understand that I really do have a great life. And I'm going to try to make the most out of it.
What's Cris Carter's greatest catch? Catching his own fall while raising up others.
State versus Kentucky at 6. Wyoming versus Colorado State at 9. Today on ESPN2.
Amid the farm fields of Minnesota is St. John's, a small men's university founded by Benedictine monks. There, you'll find a story of quiet victory, of a gentle man in a harsh game, a non-traditionalist who has built a tradition of winning on the playing fields of Minnesota.
Lyman, what have we run here? What have we run? What do you want to see?
In 50 years of coaching, 46 at St. John's, John Gagliardi has won 3 national championships. He is also the winningest active coach in college football.
That's a good one. Way to hit him.
Gagliardi has succeeded by being Dr. No. It starts with his title.
Okay, all right.
I just don't think that people should be called by their job occupation. I don't want any of them to call me coach. Some do, but I really don't like being called coach. I'd rather be called John.
John's list of no's, things he won't do,
Can't take him if he's...
flies in the face of conventional football
right on
wisdom.
top of you.
Most of these things I don't like, so we don't do them. Why do things that you... Why torture yourself?
We got 2 Wendy's. Ready? Begin. Head, shoulders, knees, toes, knees, toes.
We don't have any lengthy calisthenics. We do have a short bit of calisthenics, just to have really a kind of a horsing around drill and make a mockery of most calisthenics.
Check 1. Admire the autumn foliage. Nice day drill. Hey, nice day, Hicks. Woo! Nice day, fellas.
We don't have no practice apparatus, no blocking sleds, no nothing. We just have people. No blocking dummies, tackling dummies. Matter of fact, we're not going to tackle anybody anyway. I'm sure that no one else in the history of football has gone through a season, let alone 20 or 30 seasons, without ever making a tackle on a practice field. And probably the biggest reason we do it is to prevent injuries. You know, most people protect their quarterbacks and their star receivers, but I figure, well, you know, the other players, they all are human beings, and they all have mothers who love them and don't want them to get hurt. So we try to protect them all. We have no playbooks. We have no whistles. We don't blow any whistles. We don't own any whistles. Frankly, I don't like to be yelled at and screamed at, and I don't like to be physically or mentally abused. Could you get the guy to your inside? You couldn't get him? Well, get him. If you can get the guy to your inside, get him. Don't forget.
John doesn't berate his players. John doesn't ever, come down on people. John really instills confidence in us, and he wants us to succeed. I mean, after all, he's been doing this for 50 years. I think he knows what he's doing.
What John does do is teach the smartest way to play the game.
We want them to not have any questions going into the game, so we want them to be as mentally prepared as possible. If problems come up, they're going to understand how to solve those problems. The cornerback comes back up there.
I'm glad we tried it then. Learn something every day, Tom.
John really keeps the game simple, and I mean, the way it's meant to be played. One of John's great philosophies is really preparing us to make the perfect play.
We're finding the right guy, but we're not delivering. It's not good enough to just put it up there. We got to complete him. All that's happened is we've led the nation in scoring about 5 times, and we've set the record for probably all time at 62 points a game a few years back. So it's working out well for us, and hopefully we can continue.
St. John's success has also raised expectations from the usually contemplative monks.
John said sometimes we're unreasonable in demanding his wins, but if he loses, every once in a while, every 3 or 4 years, he loses a conference game, it's perfectly okay with the monks.
Still, he has gained recognition from around the world.
One of our monks was over in Rome at the time, and I don't know how he got that. Seems like it's official, but I don't know that the Pope knows that I exist, that's for sure.
Even Bud Grant, Minnesota's coaching legend, recognized John's talents.
2 of his sons came and played. They were superstars for us, and I remember Bud actually called me one time and said, "Why don't you get Mike to cut his hair?" I says, "Bud, you're his dad, for God's sakes." He says, "Yeah, but that's the problem." He says, "I'm his dad, you're his coach, he'll listen to you."
Over the decades, teams have listened to John, and he has quietly made them champions.
All right, we ready for him? Yeah! All right, we'll be all set tomorrow. Just do everything right on cue. Just the way we've been working at it, the way we've been visualizing it. Just the way you like to see it in the videotapes. So you can have it for not only a memory, but evidence that you were great. Right? Right. All right, great job. Let's keep it.
As St. John's took the field, there was one final verse in John's litany of no's. Even the fans urged the team to keep the faith.
We hope that there's no big deal when we score, because we just feel that we're going to do it. We've been in the end zone many times before, and we hope to be there many other times. I don't think we should celebrate some miracle. It's not a miracle for us to do it.
afternoon long, under John's watchful eye, the team strived to make the perfect play. It's simple, really. Just turn your back on conformity and head for the goal line.
Tossed it right. It was perfect. Nothing more you could ask for.
John Gagliardi is in first place, the winningest active coach in college football. And he walks away from victory number 347. Quietly.
Yeah.
They were high school sweethearts, growing up in Flint, Michigan in the 1950s. Pamela Henry and Paul Krause.
We have known each other since we were 4 years old. I was always playing football, baseball, or
My
whatever
backyard.
in her backyard. They had the biggest backyard, so we played in it.
The skills he practiced in Pam's backyard made Paul the greatest athlete in Bendel High School history. By the time he and Pam were married at the University of Iowa, Paul had been offered a $50,000 bonus to play Major League Baseball.
I just loved playing baseball. And football and basketball and running track and whatever kind of came second. Came back my junior year for football and dislocated and separated my shoulder, my right shoulder, which was my throwing shoulder. Couldn't throw anybody out at home plate anymore, so that kind of ended my baseball career. Then just turned to football, and one thing led to another. Drafted number 2 by the Washington Redskins and just went on to play 16 years in the National Football League.
He proved to be the ultimate center fielder. In his rookie season, number 26 intercepted a league-high 12 passes. After 4 years in Washington, the total was 28. Yet incredibly, head coach Otto Graham traded Paul away.
He must not have liked the way I played football. And so they traded me to the Minnesota Vikings, and it worked out perfect from then. Bud Grant was a perfect match for me. Bud Grant knew that we had a great front four. He knew we had good linebackers. And Bud told me, he says, just don't get beat deep.
The men of Minnesota knew they could count on him.
Paul was our center fielder. Great athlete, a ball hawk. He would go to the ball better than maybe anybody I've ever seen or watched up closely. And he could do that because he was a center fielder. He had a unique talent.
We knew that if a ball hung up in the air too long, he wasn't very far away from it. We knew that he'd get there.
Until we got Paul, we were struggling in our secondary. And Paul kind of pulled the whole thing together as he became that stabilizing influence back there.
We learned to play together, we learned to live together, we learned to love each other. And believe me, we still do.
In football, however, love does not necessarily conquer all. 4 times in 8 seasons, Krause and the Vikings represented the National Football Conference in the Super Bowl. 4 times they lost. But Paul Krause's individual achievements transcended his team's disappointments. Always around the football, always finding ways to help the Vikings win. Paul Krause retired with 81 career interceptions, the most by any player in history. His timely election to the NFL Hall of Fame seemed like a foregone conclusion. But as time passed, the Hall of Fame ignored this exceptional athlete.
When you have 81 interceptions, you have to look at it like I gave the ball to my offensive team 81 times. And I also stopped 81 offensive drives. And those were pretty impressive numbers.
Krause's armchair critic said he didn't like to tackle.
One year in the Super Bowl, I tackled Larry Zonka 14 times. When Larry Zonka runs by our defensive linemen and by our linebackers, and I make 14 tackles in one game, we're in trouble. With the type of defenses we had, the free safety shouldn't have to make too many tackles. And all I can say is I played 16 years and didn't miss too many tackles, and I did a lot of things right.
16 years after Paul's retirement, his Hall of Fame vigil took a back seat to tragedy that forever changed his and Pam's lives.
I was in a bad auto accident about 3 years ago, October 5th. I remember the day well.
The Krauses were leaving for Washington, D.C. to plan their daughter's wedding. Pam was driving the family dog to a kennel.
So eventually I drove upon the accident scene, and right away I knew that Pam was in trouble. That was her.
My first helicopter ride.
Her first helicopter and only helicopter ride. But anyway, the main injury she had was a brainstem injury,
which kept Pam in a coma for nearly 6 months.
We were always a close family growing up. And I think things like this either make you closer or they can drive you apart.
Hold up 2 fingers.
All right.
Pam. There's not going to be a dry eye in the room. Keep it up.
My daughter was married in my hospital. I only know she's married because she was in my hospital. I was going to fly out to her big wedding, but she had a little wedding in my hospital by my preacher.
Marriage is a lifelong commitment.
When we brought Mom home from the hospital, they wanted to put her in a nursing home. And my sister and my dad, we wouldn't do it. My dad and I do most of the care for my mom. My mom works very hard, and she gets frustrated, but she's never gone into a depression and given up on life.
This past year, Pam made the statement that this was going to be my year because God wanted her to be president. And all I can say is never give up your dreams. Thank you very much.
Said the young man in his high school yearbook, great athletes are rare and always will be. Said his soulmate, a true friend is forever a friend. And sometimes they are one and the same.
The debate has been raging all season. Next week, Dr. Z and I will settle it. Was this the greatest running play in NFL history? Plus, whatever happened to the Nigerian Nightmare? It's running backs, past and present, next week on NFL Films Presents, which can be seen at these times on ESPN and ESPN2.
Edge Pro Gel for unsurpassed comfort. Lose the foam. Save your skin.
ESPN thanks you for watching this NFL Films production. On behalf